Hey, Jessie.
Hey, Jen.
Man, I love starting my day seeing your face.
Oh, me too. I know I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm going to put on a blazer, but I'm going to put on a shirt that I love. And it says, kind people are my kind of people. Because I was like, that's the mood I need today. And now I get to see you. It's just, oh,
Oh, man. Kind people are my kind of people. I love that. I
yeah,
need to be on a billboard somewhere.
right?
Um, Jessie, I was thinking about the last opt that we were on together and we were talking about our adventures and I mentioned I had been to West Virginia,
Oh, the Bears. Yeah.
the Bears, and I was scared about going to the bathroom at 4 a.m. and what was I going to do if a bear came upon
Yeah.
me. But what I should have really been worried about is going to jail. What?
Oh, okay.
Tell me more, Jen. Okay.
Yeah. What the
This is
heck?
a PSA for everybody because we did not realize the how serious it is if you are driving down the interstate or really any road and you see a police officer or emergency vehicle or whatever pulled off to the side of the road.
Hmm.
It is required by law that you move over to the other lane. Right? Had you heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knew that that was, kind of like what you're supposed to do. Right. Picture this, middle of nowhere. It's almost midnight. We're in like almost to West Virginia. We are driving down the road. A sheriff pulls up behind us. We get over into the right lane. Right about that same time, Jessie, there's a state trooper pulled off to the right. Okay. So the timing was like, oh, okay, we got over. Oh, okay, now we need to get back over. Well, in that time, the state trooper pulls us over. Not only gives us a traffic ticket, but actually gives us a court summons. It is a freaking like misdemeanor criminal charge
Hmm.
that we now have to go to Allegheny, Allegheny, Virginia, wherever the heck that is, and go to court and plead our case in front of the judge to try to get out of this situation. We have to hire a lawyer. We
Oh,
the lawyer's like, you have to, your wife needs to come testify. My husband was driving. And
oh,
we were
Andrew
just
will be fine in jail.
he said he's gonna get swole.
Yeah. Yeah. No, y'all will be fine. Yeah, that's a really strict law
Yeah.
in North and South Carolina.
Yeah. What,
Cops are
and
because people are so distracted when they drive now that they veer over and they're
yeah.
clipping cars or police officers.
Yeah. And I totally get it. Listen, my dad is a retired police officer. Like, and Andrew, in fact, has done so much charity work for law enforcement. It's crazy, like how much money he's raised and fundraised and done all this stuff. And so we were so like stunned that all this was happening. We were like totally fumbling, like what's going, because we weren't speeding, like we weren't doing anything else. And like literally we're like family, two dogs, going
Half
camping,
asleep.
half asleep, like what's happening? And we totally fumbled like what we were trying to say. But he was not having it. So we've got to go
Mm.
to court now. And, we're just like, all right. And there is possible jail time. Like we're laughing about this, but they're like, yeah, you could face up to 12 months in jail. And so we're just like, oh my
Oh,
gosh.
your life is
Yeah.
so interesting.
So stay tuned, everybody. I should not have been worried about the Bears. I should
Yeah,
be
you didn't know
worried.
this is what you were going to get when you listen to Op, did you?
No, no. So stay tuned. All right, Jessie, let's do this thing.
Let's do it.
All right. Ops. I can't even talk. I'm so verklempt. Um, Opt episode 18. Lucky 18 with Jessie Suggs, my partner in crime.
Yes.
Um, Jessie, let's give a shout out first because we just finished our spring online sales academy,
Hmm.
which we had, I think, 13 graduates
Yes.
that finished that course, and they are now released off into the wild to with their online sales certification. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
And we have another one coming up. When is it? In the fall?
Oh gosh, Jen, what are the exact dates? Have we picked those yet? I
I
don't
think
even
we're
know.
I think we're looking at November 6th
November.
and 7th, but we
Okay.
were also talking about maybe making it a little bit longer at the beginning. So stay tuned. November, you can go to, we'll put in the show notes the link, but you can go check that out and get on the wait list if you're interested in that. But so proud of our graduates. Great job. We love
Yes.
sending out those certificates. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
All right, Jessie, what are online people talking about right now?
Well, what I'm hearing or seeing or listening to is just a little bit of a disconnect in asking for the appointment, which
Mm,
is a little bit different than what we had experienced before. So, like, you know, even though the pandemic and all of that seemed like
mm.
so long ago, some of the same trends bled over into this new market. And so it was kind of like quick turnaround. They're calling
Yeah.
in, you're getting the appointment, and you're moving through. And we kind of lost the art of deep qualification. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's kind of switched to shying away from even asking for the appointment. So it's kind of like
Ooh.
a 180. I don't know. Are you noticing that too?
Yeah, totally. We've actually had a few requests recently from managers that's like, hey, can you do some extra coaching on how to even ask for the appointment?
Yeah.
And, to your point, we're going from a market of customers asking us for the appointment
Mhm.
to now, buyers, it's a longer buying cycle. They're dipping their toe in, trying to get some information, not quite sure if they're ready to venture out. And so, as online sales specialists, like we spend time focusing on overcoming objections and how to perfect the pivot and embrace the PAP, as we call it. But really, before we even get to that, we've got to talk about how we're even asking for the appointment. So, buckle up, everybody. We've got some actual free training that you didn't ask for, but we're going to give it to you anyway.
Yeah.
So take out a notepad and make some notes because this is some really great information for you. So, Jessie, first, let's review the call path real quickly because why we spend so much time talking about the call path and just this topic of the phone is because it is totally in your control. It's
Mm.
one of the things that as online sales specialists, it's the constant, like what you do over the phone really matters. This is where you make the most money. You get the highest return on investment. This is your best tool. This is your best friend, we say. And so if you approach a phone call willy nilly, off the cuff, then you're going to get willy nilly results in some cases. So you have to have a process for the phone. So, what are the 5 steps, Jessie, of the call path first? And then we'll kind of get into asking for the appointment.
Yeah, I think it's important, like you said, to remember that it is a process. It's not just the act of pressing accept on the phone and hoping that it goes well. It
Yeah.
starts, the first step is to prepare. Like you have to be ready for those calls to come in. You've got to be sitting there at your computer ready to be able to answer their questions because if it's willy nilly, like you said.
Yeah.
But the first step is prepare, then you're opening, then you're qualifying. So, we talked a little bit about digging deep, then we're assuming, and then there's always a next step.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step we hope would be an appointment, but we've got to earn the right to get to that stage through the other
Yeah.
4 steps.
Yeah. And I want to talk about prepare for a second because mentally, like, yes, physically, you need to be prepared. Like, you need to have like your, everything at your fingertips ready to go, your website pulled up, your qualifying questions, your notepad, your CRM. Like, you got to be technically prepared. But mentally, too, the first step is like thinking this is going to be an appointment. Like
Mm,
enter into every phone conversation with a positive outlook of I'm going to have a great conversation and the end result is going to be an appointment, right? That is your job, is to convert that interest into appointments. So we have to start out by thinking that way. And then our opening, what Jessie means by that is you better be bringing the energy. You have one chance to make that first impression.
mm.
So, Jessie, what would be a good opening for an inbound call?
Yeah. I mean, of course, you're introducing yourself, you're saying hello, you're talking about your builder, you're saying your name, but a lot of times if you get in the rut of doing it, it's the act of doing it versus being intentional. And so some people even go, hello, is this are you a robot? Like, because they go, thanks for calling Happy Acres Homes. This is Jessie. And it's kind of flat, it falls flat from there
Yeah.
instead of good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for calling. This is Jessie. And who am I speaking with? And kind of starting it off in a different direction, more excited and more personal.
Be better than the bot, right? So don't sound like a bot, add some of your personality into that, right? And it really makes a huge difference. You start off the conversation right away by building rapport, remembering to get that name right at the beginning. When we do our secret shops, we see that only about 30% of online sales specialists out there are actually getting the name up front. So that's a huge opportunity for you to initially build rapport. And you don't have to say, like, with who am I speaking with? You can just roll with like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for calling. And what was your name?
Yeah.
Hey, before we get started, I'm excited to talk with you. What was your name? So remember, that is a huge opportunity. And then, like Jessie said, you're moving into the discovery, the qualification. Jessie, just as a reminder for everybody, what are the 5 areas of qualification that you are trying to determine as you're talking with the customer?
Yeah. Area, time frame, wants, needs, desires, budget, and authority, or who is involved in the buying process. And, it's great, especially if you have your prospecting pad out and your qualifications are listed out and you know that I'm going to touch all 5 areas, or I'm at least going to ask all 5 areas. And that's great. But what we see as well is it turns into more of a checklist than like a casual rapport building, trust and conversation. And so it's like kind of learning how to ask and when to ask and what those key types of questions are. Like one of my favorites is, hey, before we jump in, like kind of slowing a customer down, whether they're reserved and not really answering your questions or maybe you yes or no, or maybe they're coming out hot, like a list of questions, they're kind of hammering you. Either way, you kind of have to pause and go, hey, let me ask you, what's most important to you in your new home?
Yeah.
And that will like kind of stop their psyche too. And then you control the conversation by getting them to answer your questions.
Yeah. Well, I love that you use the word control, because the goal of this call path is to maintain control, of that conversation, right? When you're listening, when you're asking good questions, you're actually the one in control. And one of the best ways to slow down somebody who's coming in hot with like 50 questions that they want to ask you is by giving them a disruptive statement back. Like, whoa, you're super excited. First off, what's your name? Like, that takes back control. And then I love what you're saying, Jessie. Like, I want to answer your questions. I want to hear all about it, but what's most important to you? That's a great way to just kind of take that back. Okay. Then after you've gotten your discovery down and you're moving into assumptive language, you're assuming, right? So what do we mean by that, Jessie? What's an example?
Well, it's kind of gearing it up to like teeing it up really that you're going to ask for the appointment by saying, hey, it sounds like you've got some really great questions. And when you come out, we'll be able to go over all of those answers.
Yeah.
So without saying all of the details, you're kind of teeing it up like, hey, I'm about to say what your best next step.
Yeah. I love that. Using the royal we, and us, when you come out for a tour with us, we'll be able to go over those incentives in person with you. You get those customers that are asking all of those detailed questions about, hey, on lot 3, can I add a sunroom and how much is that going to cost? And you're sitting there going like, I don't even know for sure if lot 3 is still available.
Yeah.
Right. I can remember those days, right?
Heck
You're just like, how much is the pricing for this? Those are great cues and indicators in the call path to say, oh my gosh, you've got some really great questions. When you come out and visit with us for a tour, we'll be able to go over a lot of those specifics in person. We have a beautiful showroom with all of the options that we can, show you and customize your plan, your home build, and we'll be able to go over that when you visit with us. you're planting those seeds, right? That's moving that person ultimately to, like Jessie said, the final step in the call path is the next step, which is asking for the appointment. Now, pro tip before we get into the 6 ways you're asking for the appointment is you will get more objections and pushback if you ask for the appointment too soon. Right,
Yes.
Jessie? So like I've listened, like Jessie said, we listen to a lot of calls. And one thing that we hear sometimes is somebody calls in and it's like, oh, great. So glad you called and that you're interested in Happy Acres. We can go ahead and set up a VIP tour for you. When would you like to come? And it's like, whoa, like, I just want to get some information. Like, why are you trying to date me? I'm not
Yeah, it's
ready
like
to
Best
go
Buy. You
to,
go in
I'm not
there,
ready
it's
to go
like,
to second base.
I'm just looking, and you're like, good and well, you are not at Best Buy on a Saturday looking at computer cords. Like you have a purpose, but you're not looking for somebody right when you walk in the door to be like,
Mhm.
hey, what do you need? What do you
Yeah.
want to buy?
Yeah. Yeah. So pro tip, don't move to second base unless you have really rounded first, spent some time getting to know that customer. Okay, so now we're to the point, we've done our discovery and we're moving through the next step. Okay, so you guys want to write these down because we're going to go through and we're going to give you these 6 ways that you can ask for the appointment. So Jessie, what's the first close?
The
One of my
first
favorite.
one, I was about to say it's my favorite too. It's like the most organic to me, and it's the assumptive close,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like you said, assuming the next step.
Yeah.
So something like, hey, it seems like you're interested in this new home. The next step would be to meet in person. What time
Yeah.
would work for you? What does your day look like tomorrow?
Love it. I mean, that is, like you said, I feel like that's the most natural, organic way. In the call path, the next step, like the actual way to ask is right in the call path.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next step is, let's go ahead and set you up for that informational session, or let's set you up for that uh, VIP tour or discovery visit. I love that one. Okay, the next one is the soft close. I like this one too. I really like all of them.
I
The
know.
soft close, which is great. Thank you so much for the time to talk with you today and learn about your home search. What do you think about meeting for an in-person visit? What do you think about meeting for an in-person visit? You like that one?
I like it. I think it's interesting that we put our own, like, this is my favorite because it's what's normal and natural for us. But
Yeah.
the best online sales specialists tailor their approach to asking for the appointment based on their customer's vibe and sentiment.
Mhm.
And so I think we all know those customers who are a little bit reserved. I think this would be the perfect next
Yeah.
step for them is the
That
soft.
that one's also great for like if you've spent that time, really like getting to know that person and just like thanking them, right? It's like, thank you so much for the time to chat with you today. Right.
Mhm.
And then you move them into that soft close.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the next one?
The next one, the trial close. So
Mm.
this one was one that I didn't use.
Hold on. Trial.
I know.
I'm stressed out now because I got to go
Flashback.
to court.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Oh my gosh, Jen. Um, just saying, hey, do you feel like you have enough information for a next step to meet in person? So kind of putting them in the seat to say, do you feel like you're ready?
Yeah. I really like that one too. I got to say, I didn't really use this one when I was an online sales specialist, but I really like it. It makes a lot of sense, especially if you have that person, like if you're trying to get that like informational session, because sometimes you have that person that you might feel like they are just doing their research and they're asking you a lot of questions and you've spent some time answering those questions. This is a nice natural way to go from giving that information over to like, do you feel like you have enough information to move forward? Let's go ahead and set up that informational session as the next step. I love that.
I think it's a good way to identify the questions that maybe they didn't even know they had. Like if you say, hey, do you have enough information? And they go, no, you can go, okay, what other questions do you have? And then you tee it up to, hey, we'll be sure to go over that with you when you come out.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to kind of combine two different approaches.
I like that. Okay. Hard close. Okay. I use this one a lot.
Okay.
I use this one a lot. So this is basically like, and this is great for creating some urgency around like, let's get you out today.
Yeah.
So the hard close is basically like, oh my gosh, what are we waiting for? Like, do you have time today? Like, let's, because one thing we see too, another like pro tip is if you schedule an appointment too far out, like say it's Tuesday and you schedule an appointment for the following week or even the weekend, they have the whole week to rethink.
Yep.
Or to, like, oh, I don't know. Like, I just talked to my mom and she was like, this is a bad time to buy. Now they have the whole week to think about that. So if you've got that person right then and your on-site salesperson has something that afternoon, go for it. Go for it. Hey, let's do this thing. Right? We got time this afternoon. So I love the hard close.
I love that one too. And it's the summertime. People are gonna be like, oh my God, it's freaking hot. It's gonna be 95 degrees this weekend. I don't want to walk around on my Saturday in the heat, or I want to go to the pool. So for this season, it's a good reminder to get it very quickly. So that one will work.
Hey, I'm just thinking about you. Hey, let's go ahead and get you in this afternoon before this weekend it gets too hot. Okay.
Good by the pool. Okay. The next one, the tie down close, was one that I used a lot too. So it was less abrasive, more kind of floaty.
Yeah.
So it's, hey, an in-person meeting makes perfect sense. Don't you think? And kind of leave it in their boat. And then they might give you some type of objection. Like, I think that one leaves it open for more objections, but then we're ready to combat that with our strategies.
I think the tie down close too. I know it's like tie down, but you're pinning them down.
Yeah.
But I think it also, that's kind of a way like you're putting it back in, like it's their idea. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I think an in-person meeting makes perfect sense, don't you? And so then it's like, they want to say yes. I think ultimately that's what everybody needs to remember too. Your customers want to say yes. We just got to ask them. We got to ask them. We got to go for the no every single time. Yeah. So again, I love that. This is a great way to do that. Okay. Last one, alternative close. Okay. Alternative close. Be thinking week or weekend, like it's a little more loosey-goosey. The next step is I would love to set up a community visit for you. What works best for you during the week or the weekend, right? So again, that's kind of combining like assumptive, like we're assuming that they're going to come out for an appointment. What are we doing, week or weekend, right? What works best for you? How do you like that one, Jessie?
Yeah, I love that one. I think it depends, of course, on the market. You don't want to, like we mentioned earlier, you don't want to leave it too open-ended. And I think it's a good reminder that, our customers are coming to us because they want guidance. Like they've pretty much got all the information that they might need on your 24-hour model home, your website. And so if they're taking their time to inquire or call or connect with you, they're looking for someone to say, hey, here's the best next step. It's like, I always think about it like this. When you go to the Cheesecake Factory, you get that menu and it's so overwhelming. You've got too many options.
Can we just talk about that?
I'm going to get FOMO. Like my husband's going to he always picks a better meal than me. And I'm like,
do you like the Cheesecake Factory? Side note.
I've only been a few times because it makes me weird. I like the cheesecake. I don't think you can go wrong with cheesecake.
Well, to your point, it's overwhelming. I've been there like twice in my life. And whenever I've gone, that menu is like 10 pages.
Oh, it's like spiral bound.
And you know what I end up doing is I'm like, ask the waiter or
What's your
waitress, I'm
favorite
like,
thing?
yeah, what do you like here?
Because you're looking for guidance.
Exactly.
Then you go to like a fine dining steakhouse and you get 4 options. You know, you
Right.
get steak, fish, vegetarian,
Right.
and a chicken option.
Right.
And it's so much easier, and you're paying 10 times as much for the meal because it's less stress on us as humans to make a decision. Like buying a new home is already overwhelming enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for somebody to say, hey, tell me, you know, here's what I'm looking for. Tell me what's the best fit. Tell me what I want to order
Mm-hmm.
and help me get to the next step. And so
Yeah.
they don't even know their questions. They don't even know what they want. And it's your job to guide them through that to make it make sense. So,
Yeah. Okay, folks, don't be the Cheesecake Factory.
don't sue us, Cheesecake Factory.
People like Jessie saying, I mean, they want to say yes. If somebody is calling you and or submitting an inquiry right now, they are interested. They've seen the interest rates. They've been on your website. They've looked at the homes. They've looked at the pricing. Again, we have to start out this journey assuming that they called us for some reason and it's because they are interested and want to see our homes. So they might give you those brush off responses and, you know, maybe knee jerk reaction because they're a little bit nervous or they're overwhelmed, like Jessie's saying. So we have to guide them through. So go for the no. Ask, use these techniques. We've just given you 6 ways that you can ask for the appointment. Also, pro tip number 2, don't give model open hours. You're gonna shoot yourself in the tush.
Yep.
Right. Because here's what's gonna happen. If you go, hey, we'd love to set you up a tour. We're open 7 days a week from, 12 to 6. When would you like to come? Ooh, what happens, Jessie?
Well, I'm just going to drive out. When are you open? What are your model hours?
Yeah. Or, you're open 7 days a week. Okay. I'll check my schedule and
call you
I'll
back.
head on out there. Right. And then you've got to work harder. You've got to work harder. You've got to overcome that objection and pivot that conversation. So when you are suggesting appointments, when you ask for the appointment, when you go for it, give them specific dates and times of availability. If you're going for the hard close and you got something this afternoon, hey, we can see you today at 4 p.m. Let's do it. Or you're saying like, I've got, 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. on Friday. Which one works best for you? Don't give them open-ended options, right? Ooh, that's going to leave you butt hurt. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I think too, again, going back to like the human psyche, if give them, it's like a doctor's appointment. You say, hey, how about today at 4 or tomorrow at 3? And they say no to both. They then feel like they have to give you a time that works for them. So you say, hey, well, what time this week works for you? And normally, because they've said no to you twice, they're yes people just like we're yes people. And they want to like make it work for us. And so they'll give us a time that works for them. And so it's like this reverse psychology that we're doing. And I also think it's a good reminder too, that we're not here to sell the home. Like we're here to sell the idea of home ownership with our company, and our sale is the appointment. And if we're not even asking for the appointment, we're bypassing the purpose of our position altogether. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Plus it creates more work for you.
Yeah.
In the long run, like if you're not going for the appointment every time, as long as it makes sense, right? Now, what do you got to do? Now you got to put your notes in the CRM. You got to add a follow-up activity. You got to try to get them back engaged. And this happened to me before when I didn't do this correctly. I'd find out they went out there anyway. They cheated. They cheated on me. And they went out there and freaking wrote a contract. And I'm like, and I go to my manager and I'd be like, well, look, I talked to them 42 times and had great conversations. Look at these notes. Look at this follow-up. And my manager would be like, well, why didn't you get the appointment during one of those 42 times?
Ouch.
Ooh, bird.
True.
Wow. So don't create more work for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the lazy Jessie approach. Just kidding. Don't create more work. Like,
No,
go for it. Go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say, no, I'm not ready. Then you pivot that, right? Try to be like, oh, understand you're not ready. There's a lot to think about. One of the best ways to think about this and do your research is in person, right? Let's go ahead and set up an informational session. I'll let everybody know you're just looking right now. You try again. And if all else fails, you throw up the deuces and you say, okay, peace, love, not going to push it too much. And then you have to follow up, but go for the no, guys, go for the no. Okay. It's time for a skills check because
you better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
yes, ma'am. You better check yourself. So skills check is just this, right? So listen, go back. If you didn't take notes, go back, write these things down, pick out one of these 6 ways, write it on a sticky note, pin it, put it on your monitor, stick it to your laptop.
Make it your background.
Jessie is going hardcore. Make it your background of your laptop. Hot pink background, blinking at you, like as a reminder of, this takes practice. Like what we're talking about, let's just have a moment and say, we realize this is hard. This is hard. It's hard to do in real time. Think on your feet, know exactly what to say. Because in real time, you don't know what that customer is going to say back to you. Right. And these are things. So this takes practice. Write down the call path, be prepared, practice your opening, write down your qualifying questions, have those things in front of you if you're struggling with this. And even if you're not struggling with this, I guarantee you there's things that we've talked about that you could improve upon. So go get after it. And we want to hear how it goes. Jessie, any last final words of encouragement?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to when I did sports as a kid, and even now, I just bought a road bike to get out there and do something different because I'm getting tired of running. And I went out and, my husband's like trying to tell me how to do all these things. I'm getting frustrated, right? Like you might feel frustrated as an OSC trying these different tactics that don't seem to come out naturally or organically or whatever. And then I started thinking back to when I started becoming better at a sport. And I thought about my coach who said, I'm not looking for perfection, but I am expecting progress. And I was like, okay. And so a 1% growth every day, sharpening your skills will make a tremendous impact in just a few months.
Wise words from coach extraordinaire Jessie Suggs. I love that so much. I don't expect perfection, but I expect progress. So yeah, just try these things, continue to improve, listen to your calls. How do you know if you're improving? Listen to your calls, evaluate them, see where you could, I forgot to ask that, or maybe I could ask that a little bit differently. I love that, Jessie. This has been so fun. Free training for you guys. And also PSA, move over to the left to stay out of jail. All right. We'll see you next time.
See ya.